Welcome back to the Bird Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Rowe. April in Iowa is when us birders begin preparing for the heavy spring migration. We may start to see some new shorebirds and a few warblers, but the season is only getting started. April can also mean a lot of rainy days. This can make it hard to get motivated to be out birding, but I also find it interesting how birds react to the weather. They don't have the luxury of staying indoors with a warm cup of coffee or tea and some cookies, reading a good book. Birds still need to be out foraging and preparing for their long flights ahead. My challenge to you is to get out birding even when it is raining. Now, I'm not saying you should be out in heavy thunderstorms collecting data, but when it is safe to be out, go out. You might be surprised by what you find. Last year, some of my best warbler and flycatcher days were during the rain. They couldn't be up in the sky flying, so they were down in the trees foraging. And when you get a break in the rain, everything comes alive with song, just like a dawn chorus. Birding during these weather events will also contribute to science and those studying weather effects on bird migration. When I was at Kansas State, I remember a grad student mentioning that bird data on bad weather days was hard to come by. This month on the podcast is my first birder interview with an all-weather birder. Tyler Harms is the state avian statistician with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources and the executive director of Iowa Young Birders. He is a birder that I am very glad I got to know and someone that I truly enjoy being out birding with. We will discuss Tyler's passion for birds, birding, and growing the young birders community. But first, events. April 22nd through 26th is the Birdiest Festival in America. Come to Corpus Christi, Texas for workshops, birding outings, presentations, and an exhibitor tent. There will be live music, silent auction and raffle, food trucks, and even a family day and art market. For more information and to register, check out birdiestfestival.org. Global Big Day is May 9th. Contribute to this amazing global effort by getting out and birding for at least 5 minutes and logging your efforts on eBird. Last year saw over 1.7 million birders contributing to the effort and more than 7,900 species observed. Help expand that effort this year as Cornell Lab challenges us to see over 8,000 bird species. Learn more at ebird.org/news. Iowa Young Birders will be hosting field trips to the Grimes Farm in Marshalltown, Iowa on Saturday, May 2nd from 9 to 11 a.m. and Lacey Keosauqua State Park on Saturday, May 16th from 9 to 11 a.m. Check out iowayoungbirders.org/events for more information and to register. Monday, May 11th, author James H. McCommons will be at Mahaska County Environmental Learning Center in Oskaloosa, Iowa, for a discussion about his new book, The Feather Wars. There will be discussion about the conservation movement and the people involved, including Iowans John F. Lacey, William T. Hornaday, and Ding Darling. This is a free event. If you have any events that you would like advertised on the Bird Nerd Podcast, please email arowphoto3@gmail.com and use subject line birding events. Nothing goes better with an early rise for a day of birding than a warm cup of coffee. It honestly may even be the official drink of the sport. But wouldn't it be great if you could support bird conservation while enjoying a mug? Birds and Beans Coffee thought so too. That's why they developed their Smithsonian bird-friendly, certified free trade, and USDA organic line of coffees. Not only do they adhere to the stringent regulations that qualify them for these certifications, but 5% of each bag of coffee sold goes directly back to conservation. I've personally been enjoying their Scarlet Tanager Dark Roast. The bold, smooth flavor holds hints of chocolate. Their 6 roasts come in 12-ounce, 2-pound, or 3-bag options. They offer a variety of grind options, and you can set your order to automatically renew to whatever frequency you think you may need more coffee. Their 3-bag option is a great way to order if you drink a lot of coffee. They also have a 50-pack of their Frack Packs, great for offices and people who look for convenience. So, if you'd like to support bird conservation while enjoying quality coffee on those early mornings out, check out birdsandbeanscoffee.com and order yours today. Also, check out the Bird Nerd newsletter for a Frack Pack giveaway. All right, I'm here this morning with Tyler Harms. Tyler, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Austin. I live in Ames, Iowa. Have lived there now for about 15 years. I grew up in Iowa in a small town called Titonka in north central Iowa. So I'm a lifelong Iowan. Currently work for the Iowa Department of Natural Resources in the Wildlife Research Section. I'm a biometrician. Many folks don't usually know what that means. And so the way that I describe it is I'm the wildlife math person. I do a lot of data analysis, population modeling, wildlife surveys to help inform conservation decisions, whether it be for game or non game species. And then I also am the executive director of Iowa Young Birders, which is a nonprofit organization in Iowa that aims to get kids outdoors, birding and exploring nature.
Yeah, perfect. Tyler is great. He's the one that asked me to join Iowa Young Birders, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that he's given me there. Um, so, Tyler, I'm gonna ask you a few questions here about birding and your time as a birder. So, our first question here: when did you first get into birding? How did that happen? Have you always been a birder?
I haven't. In fact, I often joke, although this joke made more sense when I was younger. I'm a little older now, but I still consider myself a fairly young birder. I'm still learning a lot about birding and about birds more generally. I started birding when I was in college. I've always enjoyed the outdoors ever since I was a kid, but I really didn't consider myself a birder until I was a student at Iowa State University. I took ornithology, and that was the time when I kind of really found my interest in birds. After Iowa State, after my undergrad at Iowa State, I went on to graduate school at Iowa State as well, studying birds, and that kind of sealed the deal for me. I was hooked at that point and never really looked back.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I kind of had a similar story there, so that's a lot of fun. I should mention Tyler is sitting here in a wonderful bird-related sweater. Are those turnstones on there?
Turnstones are sanderlings. I'm not
Okay.
quite sure
Okay. The
which.
face marking on that one in the upper left there makes me think turnstone. But good.
I
Good.
had
Yeah.
to dress for
Awesome.
the occasion.
Yeah. That's before the interview. Tyler and I did do some birding out at Musconkie Marsh in Mahaska County. So um, had some pretty good birds out there this morning. I'm sure you can read about it on the blog. Okay, so my next question here, Tyler. Which bird, if any, would you consider like your spark bird? Your spark bird?
Oh, that's an easy question. Trumpet or swan?
Trumpet or swan?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So when I was young in my birding career, so to speak, um, it was when I was doing my field work for my master's degree, where I was, or during which I was studying secretive marsh birds. And so I was going around to wetlands all across Iowa doing surveys for secretive marsh birds, so rails and bitterns, coots and grebes. And again, I was fairly new in the birding world at that time, and probably didn't really consider myself a birder. I was birder curious, maybe is what we can say. And I was in the wetland. It was really quiet, just standing there. It was early in the morning, and I heard this like whooshing air sound. I, I don't I'm not good at describing the sound, but if you're a birder, you probably know the sound that I'm talking about. I could hear air moving. I wasn't entirely sure where it was coming from, and I turned around, and this trumpeter swan was flying right over me, not making a sound other than the air moving across its wings, and it just cruised right over my head. Felt like I could reach up and touch it, and it just kind of flew past me and then went to another spot in the wetland and landed and just proceeded to swim around out there. And that experience was a game changer for me. I had an interest in trumpeter swans before that. I was involved with a group called the Iowa State University Trumpeter Swan Restoration Committee as an undergraduate student, and so I had already had some knowledge and experience with trumpeter swans. But it was that one experience in the field that really locked me in as a birder.
That's an amazing experience. That's so cool. Uh, that's not the bird that I expected you to say for
Did you
that.
expect me to say the one that's tattooed on my arm?
I did. I
Oh,
did.
okay. I have chimney swifts tattooed on my arm,
Yes.
listeners, since you can't
Tyler
see my arm.
is very much a bird guy for sure. I've yet to get a bird tattoo, so I feel like there's one in my future though. Do you currently have a nemesis bird?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Um, it seems like any bird that I have chased recently has been a nemesis bird for me. I was telling Austin this morning the story of this past weekend. I threw my family in the car and drove 2 hours from Ames over to Cedar Rapids in hopes of seeing a whooping crane that was located there the day before. We did not see the whooping crane that day, but the whooping crane is still there to this day, a week later. So that was a bit of a disappointing experience. But I think my longtime nemesis bird is probably a blue wing warbler, or not blue wing warbler. Gosh, why am I drawing a blank? You're gonna have to edit this
It's a
part out.
super nemesis.
It's
Apparently.
a black-throated blue warbler. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
how could I forget my nemesis bird? Black-throated blue warbler. I have yet to see one of those in Iowa, and they're not really an uncommon bird in Iowa necessarily. But what really kind of locked the blue wing. I keep seeing blue wing warbler, black-throated blue warbler in as my nemesis bird was there was one that was found in the park that's just down the road from my house in Ames. And I walked from my house down to the park when this bird was found. And in the parking lot, I met a friend of mine who had just gone out to see this bird. It's a beautiful male. And he showed me just full frame photos on his camera of this black throated blue warbler. And I was like, yes, it's there. So I took the, less than 5 minute hike out to the spot where this bird had been seen, and I didn't see it. And nobody saw it after that. So I literally missed that bird by less than 5 minutes.
Oh, classic nemesis story.
So I think the black-throated blue warbler still stands as my regular nemesis bird.
They're for sure on my nemesis list as well. I had last year there were some reported at a spot that I frequently bird in Jefferson County, and when I went out the next day, nothing. And then the next day, reported again. So,
okay. Well, I'm glad they're. I'm not the only one.
They're a tricky one.
Eluding.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of a fun question, I guess. Would you consider yourself a lister or not?
Oh man, I guess that probably depends on how one defines a lister.
Sure.
I do have lists that I like to keep, but I don't have as many lists as some birders keep. I have a life list, obviously. I think all birders do. I do have a state list as well, and have a nice friendly competition with a few Iowa birders that are good friends on the state list. I have a yard list as well. I like to keep a yard list. And, honestly, that's about all I have for lists. I don't really keep county lists like some folks do or any other types of lists. And I don't, while I do, everybody loves to get a new bird on the list. That's not the only reason I bird.
Yeah.
I appreciate just as much going to a local place and just seeing some new birds for the year or something like that, as much as I do adding a new bird to the life list.
Sure. So. Yeah, absolutely. I think I consider myself a lister, but I feel like I'm in the same boat where it's not as many lists as what some birders have. Some people keep a list for everything. So, a good, well-rounded birder is how I would probably classify that maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess the only other list that I don't really consider it as a list, but I really like to try to photograph new birds.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of a fun
Yeah.
challenge that I have for myself, is always trying to get photos of a bird that I've never gotten photos of before.
Yeah, yeah. I do keep a list of those as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, what's your favorite way to get out birding? I know this morning we drove around a little bit, but we also stopped and looked. And then you mentioned before, like you've gone out and go hiking sometimes for birds. So, um, yeah. What's your favorite way? Do you like to get out and hike or drive around on the back roads or
Oh, that's a great question.
a combo of all of the above?
I think definitely a combo of all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I really like getting out with friends.
Yeah.
Like what we did this morning. I mean, it was great just to stand there, and one of our mutual friends, Diane, joined us this morning as well, and that was just a fun experience,
Yeah.
and we literally stood in one spot for 2 hours, and you know we saw the same birds, and we saw new birds, and we had birds fly by that we probably wouldn't have seen had we not just been standing there for 2 hours, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. So it's always fun to share birding experiences with friends, or with Iowa Young Birders. You and I have the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to share those experiences with kids and their families, and that's always a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy birding with my family. They might not always enjoy birding with me, but they do get out with me occasionally. So yeah, I can't say that I really have one favorite way to get out birding.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I can be birding is
Yeah.
is good for me, regardless of how I'm doing it.
All right. Yeah, I feel very similar. I do think a lot of times I like to be out on my own, maybe hiking more.
Yeah.
But then in those times when I am with people and standing in the same spot for 2 hours, and uh, it it helps me realize that is a great way to get birding, and just standing in one spot and seeing what shows up. We wouldn't have found our Sora this morning
Right.
if we weren't standing right there. So we might have heard it, I guess.
We might have, yeah.
Might have.
But like I think that's one of the coolest things about birding, is that you can do it so many different ways.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I mean, my family and I go on hikes a lot, and we consider them just as hikes.
Yeah.
I'm obviously taking my binoculars and sometimes my camera with me, and most of the time they're leaving me in the dust because I'm
Yep.
stopping to look at something. But that's okay. I like to ride bike, and I can find birds on my bike. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you and I are both busy people, so I imagine that anytime we can get out and bird for just a little bit is
Yep.
is good.
Yep.
So
Anytime you can get that little pause in your schedule and spend some time with birds is always a good time.
Yeah.
For sure. So do you have a favorite place to go birding, like a wetland or a park that's just something special for you?
yeah, so I thought about this question when you told me about it earlier, and this was probably the hardest one on the list. But I would say recently I've really enjoyed birding at the Iowa State Arboretum in Ames.
Oh yeah.
They have a really nice arboretum area that is also used as the cross country course, so it has some nice trails,
cool.
wide mowed trails through it, and yeah, the variety of habitat there. There's a nice stream that flows through, so I've had water thrushes along the stream, and then there's just a lot of woody edges that when the sun's coming up in the morning and hitting those trees, it gets the warblers going in the spring, and it's just a nice place to go for a walk.
Yeah.
That's been one of my favorite local places.
Sure.
Recently.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a good mix of habitat and the challenge of the warblers in the sun and
Oh yeah, yeah.
behind the leaves.
And you never know what's going to be there.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the things that I've learned to appreciate more is just rather than going to different places and trying to see different birds or new birds, going to the same place repeatedly and just seeing what shows
Seeing
up.
what's different each day.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's a pretty neat experience.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. Let's see, where are we at here? Do you have a favorite bird or group of birds?
Okay, so this is where the bird on my arm comes in, Austin.
I figured that would be. I didn't know if it was the spark bird as well or not, but I knew that it would be on this question. So
It's definitely my favorite bird right now.
Right now,
You know,
okay,
any birder will say like, okay, yeah,
depends on the day,
it
right?
depends on the day. But chimney swift,
Yeah.
I've really grown to love over the past few years for a variety of reasons. You know, I think that they're an often overlooked bird,
Yeah.
and often by by the typical person often misidentified
Yeah.
as bats.
Yeah.
But they're in cities, they're in towns, they're in developed areas in Iowa, which I
Yeah.
appreciate, and I think they're just a great candidate for getting people interested in birds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're so unique.
They are.
You know, oh my gosh, they're
Flying
just
cigars.
like flying cigars. Yeah, those long wings, and the fact that they use chimneys and they build their nests with spit, and there's
and they
just
live
so many
so
cool
close
things.
to humans.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
and are a native bird.
Right.
Not the starlings or the house sparrows that do live close to humans, and maybe do get a lot of attention that way, but are not a native bird. The chimney swift is native and lives that close to humans, and I think they're a good candidate for anybody's spark bird as well.
Yeah.
If anybody's looking for one.
That's right. If you're looking for a favorite bird or a spark bird.
And their noise too, like the little sound, the little chitter sounds they make.
It's music to my ears.
Yeah, it can. I find myself sometimes like dismissing it as background noise, and I'm like, wait, chimney swifts are back. So it usually means summer too. When I think of summer when I hear it. So,
oh, for sure. Yeah, they should be arriving back in Iowa here in the next few weeks, I would think.
Yeah.
And I challenge any of your Iowa listeners to, if you live in a town or in a city, step outside here in the next few weeks and take a walk and see if you hear a chimney swift.
Yeah.
And if you live in a town and you don't hear a chimney swift, let me know.
Yeah.
Because that would be a pretty rare, at least in my mind, a pretty rare occasion.
Yeah, for sure. I remember last year it was a day where I had to text Tyler because I saw a massive flock of chimney swifts just migrating, and they were mixed in with common nighthawks, and I was like, you won't believe this. Because I knew that he liked the chimney swift, so I had to let him know.
Common nighthawks are another cool bird.
Oh yeah,
we could spend another podcast.
Should we just pull out the Sibley now and talk about each bird?
Yeah.
Oh man, yes. So speaking of the Sibley guide, what is it, or do you have a favorite field guide?
Oh man,
I know some people are all Peterson, some are Sibley, some like National Geographic.
I don't really have a favorite field guide. I like all field guides equally.
Yeah.
I would say. I think they all, they all have their benefits.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, if I'm really stuck on an identification, I will consult multiple field guides in order to help with it. Families and parents, with highway birders often ask me like, what's a good field guide for kids?
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I always recommend the Stan Tequila's little brown field guide. Birds of Iowa. Yeah, I think he he might have a second edition now that's no longer brown, maybe blue. I haven't seen the second edition yet, but I had heard recently from a friend that he published a second edition. But the value of that book is that it organizes birds by color.
Yes.
And I think that's so helpful for kids and or anyone that's new to birding, that color is one of the best things about birds, and it's one of the first things that we notice when we look at a bird. And so if you can flip through that book to the the blue birds or the orange birds or whatever, and be able to narrow it down to small number of species. That's super valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. That's often whenever I have people tell me they saw a bird and they ask me what it is. I'm like, well, what did it look like? First thing is always, well, it was blue.
Yeah.
Okay. Which bluebird was it? And then we'll flip through the field guide, and having it organized by color like that is a great way to do it. I know other ones do it by taxonomic order, and that's fun too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Having a variety of field guides is a good way. Everybody illustrates it differently. And I guess I should have thrown Merlin in there as well as a field guide.
Oh yeah.
It's so nice with the ease of having it in your pocket and the variety of pictures that they pull off the Macaulay library. But that Stan Tequila one, there's quite a few birds missing from it, but it is a great place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good one.
And I do appreciate how many of the field guide publishers are going to phone apps now.
Yeah.
You know, Sibley has one. Audubon has one that's free.
Yep. I think there's a Peterson app.
Yeah.
I think you have to pay for the Peterson app, though.
Yeah, and Sibley too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, one that I really like that I think has been a game changer for a lot of birders is the Warbler Guide. You know, that one.
I don't know that one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that one I feel like really made a splash when it was published a handful of years ago. But
yeah.
You know, with that guide, they did this really neat thing where they made posters of
I've seen the posters,
the facial characteristics of warblers and the undertail coverts and all this stuff. That guide is, I find myself using that guide a lot in the spring, especially when the warblers are coming through, and they have an app version of that too.
Oh, wonderful! I have to look that one up.
That's a good guide.
Very cool.
I didn't know
about that
out
one.
there.
See, you learn something every day.
I know. There's so many guides out there.
So many.
It's hard to know about them all.
All right. So we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but are there other outdoor activities that you enjoy, and do you ever bird while you're doing those activities as well? Or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I spend a lot of time outside, or at least I try to. I like to bike a lot in the summertime. I enjoy hunting as well. In fact, turkey season starts here next week, and I'm excited about turkey season. Maybe more so because I'm excited to have an excuse to just sit in one place and watch birds like we did this morning, than I am about, actually having an opportunity at harvesting a turkey. But
absolutely,
I hike a lot with my family. We go on family hikes, and if I'm outside, chances are I'm at least listening for birds, if not carrying my binoculars with me and looking for birds.
I feel like as a birder, it's almost impossible to turn that part of your brain off.
It really is. Not to get off on a tangent here, but I recently had a conversation with a friend where he was, talking about how much he loves just being in nature, and just like kind of turning off his brain and just being outside. And I really love that about nature too. But the more that I thought about it, I was like, but I can't turn off my brain because I'm always identifying birds.
For sure, yeah.
Which I don't know, maybe that's a problem. I don't know. It's a problem I need to work on.
Oh, I know. It was 2 years ago when I went turkey hunting with my dad. We're sitting in the brush, and he's calling turkeys, and I kept going, oh, there's a sparrow. There's this, just identifying there's a towhee, identifying the birds as I could hear them. And he's like, stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
Like, I can't shut it off. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I probably had eBird checklist going at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Or talking with people and you're standing outside, just looking around, you've got that dog finding a squirrel mentality, just, oh, bird.
I know.
And then everybody looks at you funny like, aren't you focused on us? We are. You just can't turn the birds off.
I catch myself doing that all the time. like even in meetings at
Yes.
work or something, we have a lot of our conference rooms that have these big windows on the side, and I'll be sitting in the meeting and all of a sudden a bird will cruise by the window and I'm following it, and everybody's like, what are you looking at?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Tyler, I appreciate you coming on as the first interview guest on the podcast.
Oh man, I'm honored.
If I ever update the questions, I'll have to have you on again. Any excuse to get together and bird and have a conversation, I'll take it. So.
Yeah, me and you both. Thanks for having me, Austin. This has been a ton of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And for anybody not already following Iowa Young Birders, check out our Instagram, come to our field trips, and maybe get to hang out with Tyler or myself on those field trips. So, yeah. Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks for the plug, Austin. We welcome anybody.
That wraps up this episode of the Bird Nerd Podcast. As always, if you have questions, events, or topics that you would like for me to discuss, please reach out by email at arowphoto3@gmail.com. Paid subscribers on Substack receive access to my chat page that is a great place to ask questions and interact with the Bird Nerd community. For a limited time, if you subscribe at the yearly rate, you will also receive a Bird Nerd logo pin. Great for any backpack, binocular strap, notebook case, or wherever you like to show your Bird Nerd pride. Also, make sure to subscribe to the newsletter to gain access to special giveaways from our sponsor Birds and Beans Coffee. I'll be doing some giveaways of their frac packs, so make sure to subscribe to learn more and on how to enter. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, be sure to follow for the most recent uploads and leave a review. This will help others find the show. I appreciate you listening to the podcast and for sharing it with any birdie friends you have. Good birding.